Hey, my name's Jordan, and in the last few months, I've fallen in love with the art of bread making. Bread is a beautiful thing. It's an art form, it's a 1,000-year-old tradition. It's simple in its ingredient list, but don't let that fool you. A truly wonderful bread is made with love and care, and more than a touch of technique. By the end of this video, I want you to feel empowered to make bread for yourself. It's a bit of a challenge, but I'm confident that you can do it. If you've never made bread before, don't worry. This is the place to start. In this video, we're gonna make focaccia bread from start to finish. If you've never heard of focaccia bread, it's an Italian flat bread. Some places focaccia is known as pizza bianca because it's basically pizza dough, but it doesn't really taste like pizza dough. It's really a canvas. You can put whatever you want on it. You can turn it into a meal, you can use it as a side. It's really up to you. This video, we're going to top it off with garlic, olive oil, Parmigiano Reggiano, and some rosemary. So focaccia's got a really simple ingredient list. It's only 6 ingredients and one of them runs from the tap in your home. So this is going to be incredibly easy, and it also doesn't require any special equipment. You don't even need a stand mixer. Also, it bakes in a baking sheet, so you don't need a loaf pan or any special equipment. You don't need a Dutch oven or anything like that. Just a regular old baking sheet that you'd make some cookies on or something like that. And lastly, focaccia bread is one of those recipes that'll trick people into thinking that you're better at baking than you really are. If you're new to the channel, I make videos every week on how to make a new type of bread. And I've got a bunch of cool ideas in the pipeline. So make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're interested in watching more of my videos. So without further ado, let's get to work. Welcome to Bread With Me. Let's get to work, Grain Grandmasters. Like I said, this is going to be Bread 101. I'm going to walk you through step by step with some added commentary, so strap in. To get started, we'll wake up our yeast. Good morning, yeast. Add a half a cup of warm water to a packet of active dry yeast and mix really well. While I'm mixing, let me tell you a little bit about working with yeast. Okay, so I know a lot of people are afraid of yeast, but don't be. Yeast is our friend. It's our high maintenance friend, but our friend nonetheless. In breads, yeast gives us the crumb structure we're used to. You know, those airy, bubbly shapes. In order to achieve that, though, we need to first prove that our yeast is alive and well. Literally, that's what we're doing here. There are lots of types of yeast that you can pick up from your local supermarket, but in this recipe, we're using what's called active dry yeast. It's living yeast organisms surrounded by dehydrated stuff. Besides proving that our yeast is alive, what we're doing is rehydrating the dehydrated stuff with warm water around 105 degrees Fahrenheit. If the water's too hot, it'll kill the yeast. No thermometer? No problem. Just make sure the yeast isn't scalding. It shouldn't be hotter than what you'd use to bathe a baby. Like I said, our goal is to rehydrate, so make sure that there's no more clumpy stuff in your mixture and that it's dissolved really well. Okay, it's mixed enough. Now we'll leave it for a few minutes to settle and then just double check that there's a frothy layer to your newly bloomed yeast. Next step is to mix together our dry stuff. In this dough, we'll be using 6 cups of King Arthur bread flour. This is high quality baking flour available nationwide at most supermarkets. The type of flour you use is really important in bread making. Bread flour has a higher protein content, which will make for a stronger gluten structure. We'll talk about that later. We're also using a few pinches of kosher salt. And that's really it for our dry ingredients. Now combine the yeast mixture with 2.5 more cups of lukewarm water and half a cup of olive oil, and mix the wet stuff with the dry stuff and start to combine it with a fork. Our goal is to fully hydrate the flour so there's no more dry stuff left. And keep working on it with a fork until there's not much more you can do. Now plop your dough mixture onto a floured surface and begin kneading with your hands. It'll help if you take off any jewelry or watches you're wearing on your hands and wrists. Trust me on this one. When your dough is smooth, set it in a bowl and cover it with a moistened towel for 10 minutes. Letting your newly formed dough rest will help you work it. Okay, we're back. This is the most active / intense step of the entire baking process, and you can do this with a stand mixer, but I'm going to do it by hand in this video for one reason. I want you to see just how much this dough needs to be worked. It's a very common mistake not to knead your dough enough, and here's why it's important to knead your dough enough. The process of kneading is what creates strong gluten structures in the dough. Why are gluten structures important? When yeast produces carbon dioxide in the dough needs to be strong enough to catch and hold the gas. That's what the gluten does. It gives the dough the structure and rigidity it needs to hold on to that carbon dioxide. So, knead away. If you're kneading by hand, you can really go for a very long time without overworking the dough. So go longer than you think you need to, just be safe. This is how you know you're done kneading. Lightly press into the dough with a finger. If there's sufficient gluten in the dough will spring back. Mine is ready, so I'm going to move on to the next step. But if yours isn't ready, keep kneading. We're going to let this dough rise twice in this recipe. Now it's time for the first rise. The first rise we'll do is to ferment the dough, which gives it flavor. You can do this two ways: same day, at room temperature, or overnight in the fridge. To do this, we'll oil a bowl and use the oil in the bowl to coat the dough so it doesn't stick. Then we'll let the dough rise until it's doubled in size. At room temperature, this could take a couple of hours. If you do this overnight in the fridge, it allows the dough more time to ferment and simultaneously slows down the yeast's activity. That's the best way to go to get the most flavor out of your dough. That rhymed. And after all, a good dough makes a good bread. But doing it the same day works too. Either way, make sure your dough doubles in size before moving on to the next step. Okay, so here we are on the next day. My dough has doubled in size. Don't worry about the clump in the center of my dough though, it's because I was playing with it off camera. Punch the air out of your dough and then give it a couple of stretches. Then reshape the dough into a ball. Use olive oil to coat the bottom of the baking sheet before transferring the dough to the sheet. Now it's time to shape the dough. Push the dough into the edges of the baking sheet. My dough is fighting with me like a rebellious teenager. Look how I try to shape it, and it just bounces back to how it was. This is no good. Look how much I'm fighting with it. If your dough does this, there's a simple fix. Cover it with plastic wrap and let it sit for 10 minutes, and then come back. Ready? Watch this.
Oh, that's much better.
See? Works like a charm. Doing this allows the gluten to relax and makes the dough far more malleable. If you continue fighting with the dough, you'll never get it to do what you want, since agitating the dough only makes the gluten stronger. There's definitely a parenting lesson in there. You can figure that one out yourself. I've got too much dough for my smaller pan, so I'm going to cut some off and use another pan. 2 is better than 1, and this is no exception. This also gives me the opportunity to show you how thick your dough should be in the pan. In the first pan, the dough comes up about 3/4 of the top. On the second, it's about half. We'll bake both and see which one comes out better. Now it's time for our second rise. This one you'll want to take your time with, since it's about getting a gaseous bread structure in the dough. Really, let the dough double. If it hasn't doubled, it's not ready yet. So mine took 2 hours or so, but now it's looking really great. Now prepare your focaccia toppings. Focaccia is really a vessel for toppings. It's very plain on its own, so this is what I'm using. Olive oil, garlic, Parmigiano Reggiano, halved grape tomatoes, and some rosemary. You could really use lots of different toppings on this though. Let me know in the comments how you would top your focaccia. And of course, if you make this yourself, don't forget to tag me on Instagram at breadwithmeyt. Alright, we're just gonna let our toppings sit in olive oil so the oil absorbs all the flavors. Now we'll do what's called dimpling our focaccia dough. Okay, so make your hands like claws and then make dimples throughout the dough. Push all the way through to the bottom. If there are any bubbles that come up, that's actually really great. It means the yeast is doing its job and producing carbon dioxide. Just make sure to pop them so the bread doesn't have huge bubbles in it. So the reason we're dimpling the focaccia is to make sure it doesn't rise too much in the oven. It's supposed to be a flat bread. So now we can add our toppings. Just use a spoon to spread evenly throughout. And if you're using grape tomatoes, push them into the dough gently. Preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty hot, but it helps us get the crispy outside of the bread that we're looking for. We'll bake it in 2 steps. First for 20 minutes, and then we'll move the bread either up or down in the oven for another 10 to 15 minutes for a more even bake. That's gonna make sure that the top is just as well baked as the bottom of the bread. And that's it. We just made some focaccia. Time for a taste test. at that crunch. Oh, oh my lord. Look at this. The bottom. So you get that nice crispy bottom, soft inside. Here, listen to this. Wow. For bread, so simple. You really get a lot of flavor out of this. Punch. Because we had that garlic, we had the garlic sitting in the olive oil for a little bit. Here. What do you think?
Very crispy. I like the crisp. And you're right, there is that like olive oily taste. That's very flavorful, but not too like heavy like oil.
No. The one thing that would make this a little bit better, some sea salt. Oh yeah, that's what I needed.
Careful with those tomatoes. The hot juices are coming out.
So there you go, you made some focaccia bread. Normally in my videos I feed a little bit of bread to my dog, but I made this with garlic, so we're not gonna do that this week. If you liked this video, leave a like down below, and make sure you leave a comment letting me know what bread you wanna see next. Thanks for watching. Bread you later. Okay, fine, the dog had to have something. Did you like that, buddy? Sorry you couldn't have bread this week. I made it with garlic.